Let's move on, talk about housing. While the minority is claiming that government is disputing claims by government that the country has been shortchanged in the $180 million contract Saglemi housing project. Addressing the media during a tour of the project site in Parliament's Parliament Works and Housing Committee, the minority spokesperson on the committee, Emmanuel Bejura, said government's posture towards the housing needs of the citizenry is, with particular reference to Saglemi housing project, is scandalous.
Ladies and gentlemen, the minority of the Select Committee of Works and Housing are grateful to you, ladies and gentlemen, of the press for honoring our invitation to cover this press conference at rather a short notice. We acknowledge your sacrifices in educating and defending the right of citizens to decent housing and exposing wrongdoing in our society. We decided to have this press conference here at Saglemi site for you to have a first-hand information regarding the state of affairs and progress of work to date. The background of this project is that on Friday, 31st October 2012, Parliament granted an approval of $200 million for the construction of affordable housing project at Saglemi site near Chopoli in the Ningo Prampram district of the Greater Accra region. The contract was a turnkey project classified under engineering, procurement and construction (EPC), and this gives the contractor the responsibility of designing, procurement and construction. After the completion of the project will be handed over to the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. The following were the project details. The client, as we all know, the Ministry of Works and Housing. The contractor, Mrs. OAS Construla Ghana Limited, and the consultant, Rich Management Solution RSM Ghana Limited. The contract was awarded on the 27th February 2014. An initial completion date was supposed to be 31st March 2016. Total housing unit to be delivered is 5,000 units. The initial housing unit to be delivered under phase 1 is supposed to be 1,412. That's 1,412. Progress so far. The Select Committee of Works and Housing visited the site on Thursday, 11th April 2019, in the company of the Minister for Works and Housing, Honorable Samuel Atachia, and his deputy, Honorable Baba Asha Aisi, and observed the following: that a social on-site infrastructure facility, that's electricity distribution board installed, street lighting completed, open spaces provided, third rows, and covered drains. The housing unit, the phase 1 of the project, which comprises of 1,412 units, consisting of 2 and 3 bedroom, 116 number townhouses unit, have practically been completed, one of which has been designated for a police station.
That's Mr. Bejura there with the minority's position on the Saglemi housing project. But speaking on the Super Morning Show last week on the state of that project, the Minister for Housing, Works and Housing, Samuel Atachia, indicated that the housing project is not in the current plans of the government. JoyNews visited the project site last year, October, and reported that it's been abandoned. Let's bring you a recap of that report filed by Joseph Akable in 2018.
We have not completed any units at all. We are trying to complete what President Kufuor left off and was never completed. The point of roofing and plastering, and then the rest of the internal amenities will be put in place. The internal road systems, electricity and water.
Housing project pegged at $180 million rests on a 300-acre land off the Accra-Aflao Road. 1,502 housing units facility comprising 1 to 3 bedroom apartments and townhouses were to be built. They were expected to be sold at subsidized rates for low-income earners to afford. It is to be a complete city with industrial and recreational facilities, schools, shopping malls and other social amenities. It forms part of Ghana's push to tackle its housing deficit that has for years been pegged at 1.7 million. Very beautiful housing units one can observe when you are using the Accra-Aflao Road. It is the Saglemi housing project. From afar, it looks completed and occupied by people. But a closer interaction with sources within the unit tells JoyNews that the project has been abandoned since the change in government. By abandoned, our sources explain to us that there hasn't been any progress in the work. The second fact that may be disappointing to those who may see the beauty of this project is the fact that it is not completed. And that is what our sources tell us. They go a step further to inform us that parts of the various units have actually been taken over by weeds, as movement within it is somewhat difficult, simply because of the fact that the work is not progressing. This unit has been in the news quite recently after the Deputy Minister for Works and Housing, Frida Prempeh, raised some concerns about the fact that the project cost remains the same despite a reduction in the number of housing units that are to be provided for. We know for a fact, and from the communication from the Deputy Minister, that just about a little over 400 of the housing units are actually be completed and ready to be commissioned, but a good number. You recall that this particular phase of the project has to do with 1,500 housing units provided in a housing units project that is supposed to provide 5,000 housing units. So in terms of the situation here, we can say that work is not progressing because it's been abandoned, and the second fact being that no one has taken residence at any of the housing units that are completed as we speak to you. Reporting for JoyNews from Saglemi, my name is Joseph Akable.
Joseph Akable filed that report last year. Our procurement officer at the Saglemi project site, Silvanus Ativo, describes the latest development as a misunderstanding between government and the contractor.
Around 1,500.
1,500 workers have to go home because this project has stopped.
Yes.
And,
for how long has this been happening?
Let's say from November 2007. Most of them, 2017. Yes. Some of them before then. Yeah. So we have some few people around keeping this place.
So that's 1,500 workers in general, all of them gone?
Yes, even casuals are not included.
So the 1,500 were permanent workers?
Yeah, they were permanent workers.
And then as for the casual, you don't know?
Because with even the permanent worker, we have so many subcontractors who are working on site, so we are more, getting to 3,000 or so.
And all these workers wouldn't have their daily bread because this project has stopped?
Yeah, that's stopped. Yeah. You just imagine, it's most of them are in the house calling all the time, no work. So we really suffer a lot.
And you're sure there's having a heavy toll on the workers?
Oh, of course. If the work, like I'm saying, if the work is going on, the contractors are working. If there is an increment, we have to. Sometimes you can't even go because you know there's nothing happening at the site. So your demand can be met by the situation around. So.
This one's are getting.
Well, we're still staying a bit more on building project because consultants on the abandoned Vice Presidential Residence Project, AESL, are asking government to take a decision on whether or not it intends to continue the project as soon as possible so it does not waste the project. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia in 2017 disclosed that he was shocked to find out that the project is costing the state $13.9 million. Managing Director of State-Owned Architectural and Engineering Services Limited, Robert Abugri, confirmed to Parliament's Public Accounts Committee the work has been suspended because of concerns about the pricing. Joseph Opoku Gakpo joins us from Parliament. He's our parliamentary correspondent with details on that conversation and how it went. Hello, Joseph. Do tell us more.
So, Mr. Robert Abugri appeared before the committee to respond to questions on the Auditor General's queries on their 2016 accounts with what the Auditor General had brought to the House. And the latter part of the conversation, the members asked him what they describe as a public interest question on what has become of that particular project that started under the NDC regime and was eventually abandoned when the NPP took over. And he explained that initially there was a consultant handling the project, but it was handed over to them at the AESL. They were supposed to have been paid even consultancy fees for helping supervise the project, although they are a state-owned agency. But even that, he said the consultancy fee hadn't been paid. But he disclosed that in 2017, following the concerns that were raised about how much it's costing and the issues around how come the claim was that the $13.9 million for the project was very much on the high side. The decision was taken by government to suspend the construction of the building, and MPs pushed him further on what he thinks on what the way forward should be, and eventually made the point that he thinks it would be a good idea for government to take a firm decision on whether it wants to continue the project or it wants to abandon the project, so that then it doesn't continue wasting and that no one knows exactly what's happening there. But he disclosed that as consultants over the last 2 years that it's been abandoned, occasionally he sends staff to the place to go observe what is happening and whether anyone has encroached on it and whether it's in a good state. He gave some additional details and said that with the initial design, it came to a point when there was more like a redesign because the national security wanted to make some specific inputs into how the project will look eventually. And so after AESL took over and the project started running, the expectation was that it would have run smoothly until the issues having to do with the pricing came up. And so they would want government to take a firm decision on whether it wants to continue or otherwise, so that the project would go ahead. But the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, James Lucia-Vedi, who is also the deputy minority leader, subsequently made the point that he thinks the decision on it was taken for political purposes in terms of suspending the project. And he says he's also concerned that it's leading to a waste of public resources, and that what we can expect going forward is when the report of the Public Accounts Committee is eventually submitted to Parliament generally, they'll be making a recommendation to the House that they should approve a situation where Parliament will direct government to immediately come to a decision on what should be done with that particular structure.
Joseph, thank you very much for that update. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, joining us with details of what's Parliament or what's been said in Parliament concerning that residence that was supposed to be or that was meant for the Vice Presidency. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty Ando Apia.